The ultimatum. On what historians would later call Arrival Day, the skies above every major city on Earth split open. Not gradually, not with warning, but with a sudden violent tear in the fabric of space itself. Through these cosmic wounds poured vessels of impossible size and design, dark metallic behemoths that hung silently over humanity's greatest achievements like predators assessing prey. Dr. Elena Reyes had been halfway through her morning coffee at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, analyzing unusual signal patterns detected 3 days prior, when her monitors exploded with activity. As the observatory's lead astrophysicist, she'd spent 15 years searching for evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, as she watched the live feeds from around the world, she felt a cold dread replace her lifelong scientific curiosity. They're positioning themselves strategically, she whispered to no one in particular, her colleagues having rushed outside to witness the phenomenon firsthand. Military installations, power grids, communication hubs. The ships held position for 23 minutes and 42 seconds. No communication attempts, no response to humanity's frantic broadcasts. Then, without warning, they attacked. Los Angeles disappeared first, vaporized in a beam of energy that left nothing but a smoking crater where 10 million souls had lived moments before. Tokyo followed 7 seconds later. Then London, Moscow, Delhi. The systematic erasure of humanity's largest population centers happened so quickly that many died watching the destruction of other cities on their screens, never realizing they were next. The military response was immediate but futile. Jets scrambled worldwide only to be swatted from the sky like insects. Nuclear missiles detonated harmlessly against invisible shields. Within hours, 2 billion people were dead, and Earth's most powerful nations lay in ruins. Elena survived only because Arecibo's remote location wasn't deemed a priority target. As communication systems failed around her, she worked frantically to understand what was happening, using the observatory's equipment to analyze the alien vessels and weapons. 3 days after the initial attack, as the aliens began methodically eliminating smaller cities and military outposts, Elena made a discovery that changed everything. The energy signatures, she murmured, squinting at her screens through eyes raw from sleeplessness. They fluctuate during weapons discharge. There's a pattern, a vulnerability. Working with what remained of the global scientific community through fragmented communication networks, Elena confirmed her theory. The aliens' energy weapons created a momentary feedback loop that left their shields vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies, frequencies that Earth's technology could potentially generate. "We need to coordinate," she told the desperate gathering of military and scientific leaders on a secure channel. One massive, synchronized pulse at precisely the right frequency. It won't destroy them, but it might disable their weapons long enough for a counterattack. General Marcus Way, commanding what remained of the Pacific Allied forces, leaned toward his camera. "We don't have much left to fight with, Doctor. Most of our advanced weapons platforms were priority targets." "We don't need advanced platforms," Elena replied. "We need broadcasting stations, power plants, anything that can generate electromagnetic energy. And we need to modify them quickly." The plan was desperate, built on a theory that might prove catastrophically wrong, but humanity had nothing left to lose. Over the next 48 hours, survivors around the world worked to convert power stations and communication arrays into improvised electromagnetic pulse generators. Elena relocated to a hardened military facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, coordinating the global effort as the aliens continued their systematic destruction. Cities fell hourly. The death toll climbed beyond imagination. "If this doesn't work," General Way said quietly as they prepared for humanity's counterattack, "there won't be anyone left to try Plan B." Elena nodded grimly. "Then let's make sure Plan A works." The attack was scheduled for 400 UTC, when the Earth's rotation would position the maximum number of generators in optimal alignment. As the countdown reached 0, Elena closed her eyes. Now, across what remained of human civilization, Jury-rigged systems roared to life. Power grids overloaded, transmission towers blazed with energy, and every functional satellite reoriented to focus on the alien vessels. The pulse wasn't visible to the human eye, but instruments worldwide registered the massive wave of electromagnetic energy that washed over the planet. For 3 terrible seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the alien ships faltered. Their lights flickered. The constant hum that had filled the air since their arrival stuttered and died. "It's working," someone shouted. "Their shields are down." What remained of Earth's military forces launched everything they had. Fighter jets screamed toward the vulnerable vessels. Missile silos emptied their payloads into the sky. Even civilian aircraft loaded with explosives were piloted on suicide runs against the massive ships. The first alien vessel to fall crashed into the Atlantic Ocean with enough force to generate tsunamis that devastated coastlines already reeling from attack. Others followed, plummeting from the sky like wounded leviathans. Some managed to retreat, limping back through the spatial tears they'd created, but over half of the invasion force was destroyed or disabled in less than 15 minutes. As the skies cleared of the immediate threat, a strange silence fell over the war rooms and bunkers where humanity's survivors had gathered. Not celebration, the cost had been too high for that, but a grim satisfaction that they had, against all odds, fought back. Alina stared at her monitors, watching the remaining alien ships retreat beyond Earth's atmosphere. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "And they'll be ready for this tactic next time." General Wei nodded, his face haggard with exhaustion and grief. "Then we better be ready too. How long do you think we have?" "I don't know," Alina admitted. "Maybe days, maybe years. But they won't forget this defeat." In the aftermath, as humanity began the impossible task of rebuilding, Alina led the effort to understand the alien technology salvaged from crashed vessels. Progress was slow at first, then accelerated as scientists made breakthrough after breakthrough. Weapon systems based on the aliens' own technology, defensive shields adapted from their designs, and most importantly, a communication device that might allow humanity to broadcast beyond their solar system. 6 months after arrival day, with half of Earth's population dead and its surface scarred beyond recognition, Alina stood before the newly formed Global Defense Council, her discovery clutched in trembling hands. "We can send them a message," she explained. "One they'll understand." The council chamber fell silent. "What kind of message?" asked President Nkosi of the African Union, one of the few world leaders to survive the initial attack. Alina's expression hardened. "A warning that if they ever return to Earth, we won't just defend ourselves. We'll hunt them to extinction." Debate raged for hours. Some argued for a message of peace, suggesting the attack might have been a misunderstanding. Others worried that threatening an enemy that had nearly wiped them out was suicidal. But in the end, the decision was unanimous. Earth would not extend an olive branch to those who had tried to eradicate them without warning or provocation. 1 year after arrival day, as humanity's recovery efforts continued and its defenses grew stronger by the week, Alina activated the alien communication device. The message was simple, broadcast in the mathematical language they had decoded from the aliens' own systems. "Earth to invade yours. A task again. And EVAC to OTAL annihilation." As the message streaked across the cosmos toward the retreating armada, Alina looked out over the ruined landscape that had once been Colorado Springs. New buildings were rising from the ashes, constructed with materials and methods derived from alien technology. Defense platforms bristled from mountain peaks, their weapons aimed skyward. Humanity had survived its darkest hour. It had endured unimaginable loss, and now, united as never before, it was preparing for war. "Let them come," Alina whispered to the stars. "We'll be ready." She didn't know then how soon that readiness would be tested, or what terrible price victory would demand. The reckoning. The response came 2 years after humanity sent its defiant message to the stars. not as a transmission or diplomatic communique, but as a darkening of space itself. Dr. Elena Reyes stood in the Global Defense Council's observation dome, watching as the fabric of reality tore open once more, not in dozens of locations as before, but in a single massive rift that stretched across half the visible sky. Through this cosmic wound poured not the 100 vessels of the first invasion, but thousands, their hulls gleaming with modifications clearly designed to resist Earth's electromagnetic countermeasures. "They've adapted," she said quietly to General Wei, who had aged decades in the years since the first attack, "just as we have." Wei's weathered face remained impassive, but his hands tightened on the railing. "Are our defenses ready?" "As ready as they can be." Elena gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's newly established orbital platforms, ground-based energy weapons, and the fleet of fighters reverse-engineered from captured alien technology. But they've brought an armada this time, not just an invasion force. The fleet took position in high orbit, maintaining formation with military precision. Unlike the first attack, they made no immediate move against Earth's cities. Instead, a single vessel, larger than the others, with a hull that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, descended slowly toward the upper atmosphere. "They're sending a message," Elena realized, reading the data flowing across her screens, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message, when it came, was not in the mathematical language Elena's team had decoded. It was in perfect English, the voice unnaturally modulated yet distinctly artificial. "Humanity," it began, the single word echoing through every functioning speaker on the planet. "Your resistance was unexpected, impressive even, but ultimately futile. We have returned as promised, with sufficient force to complete our task. Your extinction is inevitable. However, we offer mercy. Surrender your most populated regions for harvesting, and the remainder of your species may continue existence in designated reservation zones." The council chamber erupted in voices, some calling for immediate counterattack, others suggesting negotiation to buy time. President Nkosi raised a hand for silence. "Dr. Reyes," he said, his voice steady despite the existential threat hanging above them. "Your assessment." Elena studied the fleet configuration, the energy readings, the positioning of the command vessel. "They're not here to negotiate. This is psychological warfare. They want us to waste resources defending population centers while they target our military installations." We nodded grimly. "Agreed. And harvesting suggests they want our people, not just our planet. Experimentation. Slavery? Either way, surrender isn't an option." "Then we fight," Nkosi declared, and no voice rose in opposition. "Activate Project Prometheus." Project Prometheus had been Elena's obsession for the past year, a desperate gamble based on technology salvaged from the alien wrecks. Not a weapon in the conventional sense, but a device capable of generating a quantum entanglement field that theoretically could disrupt the aliens' faster-than-light propulsion systems. If it worked, their retreat would be cut off. "The device isn't fully tested," Elena warned, though she was already entering the activation codes. "And once deployed, we're as committed as they are. No one leaves until this is finished. Then let's make sure we're the ones standing at the end." Wei replied, opening a secure channel to Earth's unified defense forces. "All units, this is General Wei. Operation Thunderstrike is authorized. I repeat, Thunderstrike is authorized." Across the planet, humanity's defenders moved into action. The orbital platforms, disguised as debris from the first invasion, powered up their weapon systems. Ground-based rail guns targeted the largest enemy vessels, and from hidden bunkers worldwide, squadrons of fighters rose to meet the invaders. The alien response was immediate and devastating. Energy beams lanced down from the fleet, more powerful than in the first invasion, targeting Earth's defenses with surgical precision. Orbital platforms exploded in silent bursts of light. Ground installations vanished in columns of superheated plasma. "They've improved their targeting," Wei observed grimly. They're taking out our defensive grid systematically. Alina barely heard him, focused on bringing Project Prometheus online. The device, a massive array of quantum processors cooled to near absolute zero, lay buried beneath the Antarctic ice, powered by geothermal energy and connected to transmission nodes around the planet. Quantum field initializing, she reported, watching the energy levels climb. 30 seconds to full power. Above them, the battle intensified. Earth's fighters engaged the alien vessels, employing evasive maneuvers that no human pilot could have survived. They were drone craft, piloted by AI systems that learned and adapted with each passing second. They couldn't win against such overwhelming force, but they could distract, and they could gather crucial data on the enemy's capabilities. 15 seconds, Alina called out, her voice tight with tension. Targeting the command vessel. The massive alien ship had maintained its position in low orbit, directing the assault with cold efficiency. If Alina's theory was correct, it contained the quantum navigation systems that coordinated the fleet's faster-than-light capabilities. 10 seconds. 9. 8. A violent shudder ran through the command bunker as an alien weapon found its mark somewhere above. Lights flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, Alina feared they'd lost power to the Prometheus array. 3, 2, 1. Initiating. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, the quantum processors reached critical resonance. The energy they had been accumulating discharged not as heat or light, but as a wave of quantum distortion that rippled outward at the speed of thought. It was invisible to human senses, but the effect on the alien fleet was immediate and catastrophic. The command vessel shuddered, its hull rippling as though suddenly fluid. Smaller ships near it began to drift, their precise formation dissolving into chaos. Some collided with each other, while others fired weapons seemingly at random, destroying their own vessels. "It's working," someone shouted. "Their systems are failing." Alina watched the readings with growing hope. The quantum field was disrupting not just their propulsion systems, but all technology that relied on the same principles. The aliens were blind, disoriented, and most importantly, trapped. All defense forces, Y barked into his communicator. "This is your window. Hit them with everything we've got." Earth's remaining defenses unleashed hell upon the crippled fleet. Rail guns fired hypervelocity projectiles that tore through alien hulls. Energy weapons, reverse-engineered from the first invasion's wreckage, burned through their weakened shields. And in orbit, seemingly dormant satellites activated, revealing themselves as autonomous hunter-killers programmed to target the aliens' most vulnerable systems. The battle raged for hours, the sky ablaze with the death throes of massive vessels. Some alien ships managed to restore partial functionality, fighting back with diminished but still deadly effectiveness. Others attempted to land, perhaps hoping to establish ground positions they could defend more effectively. None reached the surface. Humanity had spent 2 years preparing for this moment, and no alien craft made it through the layered defenses without being destroyed. As the conflict entered its 6th hour, the alien command vessel, now visibly damaged, with sections of its hull breached and venting atmosphere, began to move. Not retreating, for the quantum field still disrupted their faster-than-light capabilities, but descending toward Earth itself. "They're making a suicide run," Wei realized, watching the massive ship's trajectory. Targeting. God, they're aiming for the Atlantic. A direct impact of that mass would create tsunamis that would devastate every coastal city worldwide. Alina's mind raced. The Prometheus device couldn't stop the ship's momentum, only its advanced technology. Conventional weapons hadn't been able to destroy something of that size, only damage it. They needed something else, something the aliens wouldn't expect. "The quantum field," she said suddenly. "We can reverse it." Wei looked at her sharply. "Explain." "Instead of disrupting their technology, we focus the field on a single point inside their command vessel. Not to disable, but to create a quantum singularity. A black hole, General. A very small, very temporary black hole." The idea was theoretical, borderline impossible, and likely suicidal. The quantum mathematics suggested it was possible, but no one had ever attempted anything remotely similar. The energy requirements would be enormous, Elena continued. We'd have to divert power from every defense system, every grid worldwide. We'd be completely vulnerable. Wei studied the alien command ship's descent path. How long would we be defenseless? Minutes, maybe less. And what happens to the black hole? Elena took a deep breath. If my calculations are correct, it collapses after consuming a specific amount of mass. If they're wrong. She didn't need to finish the sentence. If she miscalculated, the singularity could continue growing, eventually consuming the Earth itself. President Nkosi, who had been listening silently, spoke up. The alternative is watching that ship impact the ocean and trigger extinction-level tsunamis. Do it. The order went out worldwide. Power plants diverted every available megawatt to the Prometheus array. Cities went dark. Defense systems powered down. For precious minutes, humanity was more vulnerable than it had been since the first invasion. In the Antarctic, the quantum processors strained beyond their design limitations, components melting and reforming under the influence of the energies they were channeling. Elena remotely reconfigured the field projectors, inverting the quantum wave function and focusing it on a precise point at the heart of the descending alien vessel. Field inversion complete, she reported, her voice barely a whisper. Initiating singularity in 3, 2, 1. The command ship was 40 kilometers above the Atlantic when it happened. There was no explosion, no dramatic burst of light, just a sudden, perfect sphere of absolute darkness that appeared in the vessel's center. For one breathless moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with horrifying speed, the massive ship began to collapse inward, its structure folding into the growing singularity like paper drawn into a drain. In less than 30 seconds, the command vessel, over 3 kilometers long, had vanished completely. The singularity hung in the air, a black pearl against the blue sky, growing slightly as it consumed atmospheric particles. Elena, Wei said urgently, the collapse sequence. Already initiated, she replied, not taking her eyes off the monitors. The field is reversing. Now. The singularity pulsed once, as though breathing, then contracted rapidly to a pinpoint before winking out of existence, with a flash of Hawking radiation that briefly outshone the sun. Where the alien command ship had been, there was nothing but empty sky. In orbit, the remaining alien vessels, leaderless, damaged, and still affected by the original quantum field, fell into disarray. Some attempted to fight on, but without coordination, they were picked off one by Earth's recovering defenses. Others tried to flee, only to discover that the quantum disruption had permanently damaged their faster-than-light systems. Not a single alien ship escaped. Not a single invader survived to carry tales back to whatever distant world had spawned them. 3 days later, when the last wreckage had been secured and the final alien technology catalogued, the Global Defense Council convened once more. The mood was somber despite their victory. Earth had won, but at tremendous cost. Millions had died in the second invasion. Infrastructure had been devastated. Recovery would take decades. We should send another message, President Nkosi suggested, to whoever sent them. Make it clear that any further aggression will meet the same fate. Elena shook her head. I have a better idea. Using salvaged alien technology, enhanced by humanity's growing understanding of quantum communications, Elena designed a beacon. Not just a message, but a warning system that would broadcast continuously into the depths of space, carrying Earth's ultimatum to any who might receive it. This world is protected. Approach with PECEFUL intent, or do note APPROHHE all. Earth's a final warning. ATZKK again, and EFAC to OTAL annihilation. As the beacon activated, its quantum signature rippling outward faster than light itself, Alina stood on a hillside overlooking the recovering city below. New buildings rose from the ruins, stronger than before. Children played in parks where defense batteries had once stood. Life continued, as it always did. "Do you think they got the message this time?" General Wei asked, joining her at the overlook. Alina gazed up at the stars, now harboring both wonder and wariness. "I think the universe just learned something important about humanity." "And what's that?" She smiled grimly. "That we don't start fights, but we damn well finish them." As night fell across a world forever changed by contact with the stars, humanity continued its work, rebuilding, strengthening, preparing. Not just for war, though they would never again be caught unprepared, but for peace, for exploration, for a future among the stars that they had earned through blood and sacrifice, and an unwillingness to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Earth had spoken its final warning, and the universe was listening.